division of labor. And this is the moving to action and taking the next step. And we really think that we, in fact, what we're going to describe as the workshops was not, I think, what we were all expecting would come out of the morning. So that's really good, because I think the facilitators and the presenters really listened to what you were saying. And so what we're going to do is we've divided it up into 5 sort of issues of taking the next, or taking a next step, and they will be around how to do things on 5 issues that we heard from the different tables. So, and what the idea would be in these sessions is to take the best practices of what we're doing, because we certainly, and that was absolutely exciting this morning, good things are happening, all kinds of really interesting things around the city. And so that was really heard this morning. And so what we need to share them more. I think that was agreed that even though some people are sharing them, we always need to share them more, because there's all these exciting things going on. And sometimes we know of some of them, but we don't know about all of them. So this gives us another chance this afternoon to work on needing to share them. So the first sort of issue that came up was getting the unusual suspects around the table. So a lot of this came up about how do you get the people who are not the people you always think of in terms of that issue, but how do you get the unusual suspects around the table? And that's going to be in the blue room. And so the next, and as was said, people will be able to guide you if you weren't moving around like Julia this morning. The second one, which was also an issue that came up, is how do you maintain your core values in a collective? How do you work in partnership, work with other people, but maintain the values that motivated you or your organization, or in both cases, in that collective? And that's going to be in the yellow room. The third sort of focus that came up, that we heard this morning from the 5 groups, was building capacity around a new way of doing things that used to always be done off the side of desks, tables, that were sort of things you did when you suddenly found you had 5 minutes to do something and you did them. But they're now things that we need to build capacity to do them as such. And some of those were working on common language, working on the resources around evaluation, the kind of tools that exist, the kind of best practices that exist around evaluation. The same things about measuring partnerships, there's lots of tools around that, and communications. So all of these things that often people sort of did, but they weren't part of what was organized for organizations to do. You sort of did them as you were doing other things. How can we build the explicit capacity in organizations to do those things? And that's going to be in the green room. The 4th group is, which also came up a lot in the tables, is how can we inspire and support funders to adopt to the new reality and to the new ways of working together. So again, this of how can we think of ways to support and inspire the people who do the funding as we move into this new world. And perfect choice for this room, it's in the red room. So I'll go to the red room if you want to think about this question. But and that's an important, so that's number 4. And number 5 is acting on our ability to be the agents of change. So that's getting right down to the sort of individual, how do we create our capacity to be the agents of change? How do we claim power? How do we add to a sense of the capacity to be helpful? And how do we build a first step to building a partnership, to doing something? So how do we individually take on a role, individually in our agencies, take on a role to be able to create our capacity to be an agent of change? and that's in the black room. That's maybe not such a good choice of rooms, but we won't be feeling black in that room. We'll be feeling full of our capacity to be an agent of change. And then there's a sixth group called sort of a ginger group, which if none of those 5 subjects totally inspire you, you can come to the cafeteria and self-organize around things you want to say to people, ideas you want to pitch to people. So you can come here and be a self-organized group. Yes, this is the cafeteria. So so I will I'll run through those just very quickly so getting the unusual suspects around the table is in the blue room. Maintaining your own core values in a collective is in the yellow room. Building capacity around new ways of doing things, what you've sort of always done, but it was never important it was being done when you had 10 minutes. I said 5 the first time, it's now got up to 10. You used to have 10 minutes in a week to do it. That's in the green room. The fourth one is inspiring and supporting funders to adopt to the new realities and the new ways of working. That's in the red room. And the last one is acting on our own ability to be the agents of change, and that's in the black room. And what we hope you'll do in these sessions is, of course, continue conversation and discussing. We also hope that you might want to make recommendations from the group, and that would be great. So you can make recommendations from your group, and they will be passed on. And you can also decide to exercise self-leadership, and if somebody wants to step up, and not only do you have a good idea, but somebody's willing to be the actor of that good idea and start moving it on, that would be wonderful. So you can certainly discuss, you can certainly recommend, and you can certainly step up and be the next leader of the next wonderful action. So I think is that what we wanted to say? So thanks very much, and have fun at the next session.